I lost every single person that listens to this on LinkedIn. I say many more outrageous things on LinkedIn than many others. So the math wasn't mathing towards the end. I'm allergic to Google reps, which I am. So we are transitioning heavily over to video.
Thanks for tuning in to The Humble Venture. This is a podcast where we get to talk to entrepreneurs, high-performing talent, and industry leaders. We get to ask them everything about how they got to where they are, the things they learned along their journey, and what tips and tricks they would like to share with the world from their own niches and perspectives. So we hope you enjoyed this episode. Please give us a like, give us a follow, leave a comment if you enjoy it. And here's a bit more about today's guest. Enjoy. In today's episode of The Humble Venture, we have the OG Andrew Lolk, one of the big figures inside Google Ads marketing. He tells us his journey of how he started off as a telemarketer and then moved on to create an affiliate company in Malta and how that was, the loneliness of it and what it led to. An agency with over 100 employees based off in the US and being one of the first Google partners in the market. He also tells us how it is to actually run a D2C brand firsthand. He created one in the US and he shares his experience and why inevitably at the end it had to be turned down and fail. This and so much more. We hope you enjoyed the episode from today. Thank you so much for listening and stay humble. All right. So today we have a really, really special guest. We have Andrew Lolk, one of the biggest figures in PPC, digital marketing online. He's been one of the people to look up to for many, many years now. The guy who taught me, he learned everything from Andrew. So in some way, he's my mentor's mentor, if you will. He's my Yoda to Anakin. So yeah, thank you so much for jumping on this, Andrew.
Of course, I was for a minute there. I thought you were about to do what I always do, and I stumble into an analogy like the Star Wars one, and then I can't complete it. I'll say something like Yoda, and then I don't know the next level. So
Yeah.
I thought we were going there for a second.
No, I saved it almost. Obviously, for people who don't know you, you are the founder of Savvy Revenue. It's not your first agency that you've launched. You've been in this space for over a decade. And for people who maybe don't know you, how would you introduce yourself?
So I think the best way to explain like a little bit about my background, because agency people get a bad rep for having a very boring background. Before I ever got into Google Ads, I was in affiliate marketing and I was really, really good at Google Ads back then. And I was one of the biggest affiliates in Scandinavia. I was one of the first to figure out how to use arbitrage with Google Ads, like for real, like not just some random person who did affiliate and a little bit Google Ads. I really figured out how to do it multi-million. And it did really, really well back then. And I kind of pushed that into an agency I started in the US. So we had a US agency with the primary part of our workforce was in Nicaragua. I've been a little bit everywhere. I've run the affiliate thing, trying everything on my own back. I've run a several hundred person agency and brought that back down to what are we in Savvy? We're 12 people. Or you called us at one point in time the smallest agency with the biggest clients.
Yeah.
I just talked to a Googler this morning, like where he was like, how are you guys getting all these large clients? Because he had just been on a call with Boostled, who said that we were doing some sparring and coaching with those guys, and we just took over Trend him. He was like, how are you guys getting all these? So we really did the exact opposite with Savvy than what I used to do in my old agency, where we're just like small, medium-sized businesses in the US. So I feel I have a much broader spectrum of knowledge than many people in the agency space have, which means that, like an old employee said, I say many more outrageous things on LinkedIn than many others. I think it just comes from a broader range of perspectives.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you. You're definitely one of the conversation starters, if we'll call it that, on LinkedIn. It's always funny to see.
It's a social media. You're supposed to say things. You're supposed to just say things for fun. Like all of the social media that we do is, not all of it, but 90% is just me sitting and thinking something and then posting it. And sometimes that goes horribly, horribly wrong. And sometimes it goes right. And half the time, like 5 people see it and then we try again. But there is a thing on LinkedIn and in general, just to say crazy things. I try to avoid that because I think it's just ridiculous. It's so clear. There was a brand owner the other day on LinkedIn that went out and posted that 95% of the agencies out there are just pure crap. He had been through 6 and it was like, oh, 95% of pure crap. Be that as what it may, I think I do agree. I think 95% that's a lot. I think it's like 50%, maybe 60% of pure crap. But then it was funny. There was an agency, and people can maybe figure this out, but there was an agency in Denmark that went out and posted like all the good things they did, and they're just one of the biggest crap agencies out there. And I was just like, I remember my comment on that post. I was like, should I start? Should I not start? And I was like, I just wrote ha 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 ha,
I
and
saw
it got
that.
like and it got 20 likes. I was like, it's just like some people in the agency space have just no perspective whatsoever.
Even though the saying is all PR is good PR, sometimes bad PR is really bad PR.
Yeah, I'm surprised some of the things I see where I see people like where I go, okay, they wrote something. I don't think like that's something that I don't really agree with it, or it's not the right thing to say, or there's maybe that's very black and white. And then I go in and I just see like 20, 30, 40, 100 people just disagreeing with them publicly. I go, they're kind of right in what they're saying. Like they just,
Delivery isn't there.
yeah, delivery isn't there. And maybe they were like a little bit too harsh. So I think you can get really, really far with things on LinkedIn, and people are very like, the only thing you can't get away with online, in my opinion, is negativity.
Yeah.
If you curse, and I curse a bunch normally, but if you curse, if you are outright negative, like we all know the people that say Google's stealing, Google is scamming, Facebook is cheating, Facebook, like you can say it once a year and it'll kind of get some traction. But if you say it more than once, I'll personally stop listening to you. Because it's just like, what are we going to do with that? And from A, it's not correct. And B, what are we going to do with that?
Yeah. No, and I have one guy, especially at top of mind, who just all he does is post negative stuff about Google. Like that's probably 50% of all the posts, which is crazy. And I just see like this bandwagon of people just like viral content. Let me jump on that. Let me put something cool in the comments.
So I'll say this: like the reason why I don't do that is partially because I think it's negativity produces more negativity, but also because I wouldn't want to work with a person who believes that Google is scamming them. Personally, I don't even want to attract them, because then I'm going to have the conversation every 3 weeks. Well, what is our invalid click rate? Why has our invalid click rate gone up from 6% to 7%? There are invalid clicks. They've already been counted out. Don't worry about it. Or should I put in this IP blocking thing? No, you should not. It makes like, no, don't do it. Like this makes no, they don't work. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And I think some people have, they built their brand that way, which is unfortunate, but it kind of worked for them. I have a hard time believing, however, that they actually get to work with a tip of the spear type of clients who probably have had long relationships with the partners and the platforms, right?
You have to play nice.
Yeah.
You have to play nice. Like there's like as much as I go out and I say I'm allergic to Google reps, which I am. Like we had a policy in Savvy for like 4 years, don't talk to them, until it became embarrassing. We didn't have a Google rep, so like it's just like, and everybody can play nice. And we've maybe it's something we've seen over the last maybe year and a half at least, that everything isn't only PMax. Even like the reps we have today, it's more friendly. It's more business focused than ever, I feel. So I think also just it's a slippery slope just being negative. People want positivity. I want to open LinkedIn. I want to talk to people who are positive, who are optimistic, and see things in the future.
Same here. I would rather have a good discussion than just like bashing on something. Nothing productive comes out of that. But on that topic, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, like you built a huge following of people. You got famous, at least in the Nordics, through writing your blogs of content on how to do proper PPC. Feel like in some sort of way, you're almost like the early version of Alex Hermosi, but instead of videos, you did it through blogs. And instead of doing it for business, you did it for a very niche topic, which was Google Ads. How do you feel about like carrying on that legacy right now? Do you feel like blogs are slowly dying out? Do you feel like they're working, or do you feel like you have to move it to something else?
So it's actually, it's very timely, because we're moving everything to video now. Like we started early 2025 with starting up some processes around that. And I would say mid 2025, we are 100% on YouTube. The main reason for that is that we try to go through the people that know who I am, for instance. And a lot of people who know who I am know me from the blogging days, from the early days, from the writing days when blogs were popular. now they're a lot less popular, and people get a lot more content from video. And what we teach, any type of teaching, in my opinion, much better when it's visual than just writing. That's why I've always tried to put in a lot of illustrations and things like that in the blogs and articles I write. But people just consume it less, and we get a lot less new people, net new eyeballs to what we do. So we're transitioning everything over to video. Another reason for that is I think ChatGPT is going to water out writing. It's going to be much easier for anybody out there to produce a lot of content within Google Ads or repurpose written content. So I just think it's more of a moat to do video. So for the next stage and what we do, what I do, it's 100% going to be video. I think people are going to, in the AI age, going to crave a personal interaction, a person to relate to, and you relate a lot less through articles and the written word versus you follow somebody on YouTube and you see what they do and you put them in your ear and you hear what they're saying and how they're saying it. It's not going to be the same thing if you're reading an article. So we are transitioning heavily over to video.
Yeah.
Even though I prefer writing.
Okay. Because I do think there is some hope. I mean, obviously and maybe you've started seeing some of these people pop up as well in your LinkedIn feed and elsewhere. It's people who are now doing GEO, which is like generative experience optimization, basically organic chat results inside, for example, ChatGPT. And my thinking goes, if you want to rank organically inside a text model, there needs to be text input. So I do think there's probably a lot of value in the blogs that you've already created, but are you making sure that that's ranking towards like these chatbots, or is that something that you guys haven't started thinking about yet?
So the reason why we're switching it, so we go from writing first and then video to go video, then writing. It's not that we only do video. It's just me creating a script for a video can easily be transferred or repurposed over to an article. So we will still do that. We'll still have the whole ecosystem of writing. And I'm still I'm old enough in the game that only being on YouTube is just ingrained in me to be a bad idea. There's many things there I believe, like only being on YouTube, how do you capture email subscribers? If we go back to one of the best things I personally ever did was early in my game, I wrote a book on Google Ads and I gave it out for free. I've lived off that email newsletter in Denmark, at least ever since then. It's been the starting stone for almost everything I've done in Europe, which is very interesting that has been such a benefit. Only being on YouTube, I think, is a bad idea. You need to develop your newsletter. You need to develop your email subscribers. It's still the number one constant for 20 years. Have been those email subscribers. I think that's just important to continue to do that, no matter what you do on YouTube.
Yeah. But now it's all about finding them from a different source.
I think the game on YouTube, if you go in and you search, there aren't anybody well known. It's with the deepest amount of respect. It's some random dude in India. It's some random dude in the US that posts most of the stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I think we can do that better. And I've thought that for a while. Now we just go all in.
I totally agree, because every time I'm stuck on something extremely specific, new interface, it's changed. Where do I upload a feed, like a page feed, because that changed. So now it's under the business data instead of where it used to be. Where do I find this? And then I go to YouTube and there's some guy, like you're saying, from India, just 30-second video. I'm like, this is exactly what I needed. But it's just weird that there's not a go-to place for that.
Yeah, that's what we want to partially create now. It goes with AI, it goes with future businesses, it goes with where overall agencies and Google and stuff like that fall. So we want to make sure we have more legs to stand on than being the cab driver that's trying to hang on to their cab business when Uber is just a better option.
I actually have something that I'm wondering about. What did you study in school? Did you even study in school? How did you even jump on this journey?
So I got into PPC because I got hired as a telemarketer at a job board. What they did that was really, really special. We're 5 people. So it's not because this was huge, but we're 5 people. And what they came up with back in 2008 was that instead of running Google Ads to job categories, so somebody searched for sales job, then they show an ad for sales jobs on this site, and then they land on the sales job category. Then they hyper-focused all the ads. So if I was sitting in Northern Zealand and Denmark, and I'm looking for a sales job, and in a 10-kilometer radius, then they would say, you go straight into this job ad. So they would boost the individual ads with what I call direct Google ads. And as I was sitting and looking at what the way that they were doing it, I wasn't a super good telemarketer. I would do the old fashioned where I would like, some days I would be so in myself that I would call and I would hang up as somebody answered the phone. I was so bad at it. I always hit my quota, but never went above my quota. It was ridiculous. So after 14 months of that, the guy who owned it was like, Andrew, are you sure you want to be a telemarketer? I was like, I'm sure I don't want to be a telemarketer. And the guy who was doing the Google ads left, and he had I'd portrayed some interest. We had some conversations. And the second I looked at it, at the times I looked at it, I always went, this doesn't make sense to me. Everything was running on the same account. Everything was not structured. From the first time I saw a Google ads account, I was like, I know how to do that better. And then we spent around a year doing that. And I was just doing Google ads for them. During that phase, we had the financial crisis back in 2008, 2009 in Denmark. And we couldn't sell any more job ads. So we went over to use the skills that we had within Google ads to create a basic agency. And after 6 months of that, I was like, okay, this isn't a real agency. Let me try something else. So I actually went over and I was supposed to start in SEO because I also had an interest there. And my boss at the time wouldn't give me a positive reference. We had been friends. I'd been to his house like 4 days out of the week for 2 years straight. And he got so upset when I left that he didn't want to give me a positive reference. So I lost that job. I was like,
No way.
yeah. So I was like, what am I supposed to do now? And this tiny little agency, it was 2 people and a salesperson, was like, we need a Google Ads person now. I was like, okay, I can do it. And so I started there, and I just, it was a guy who had done PPC for a long time called Mohammed Datka. He runs SEO today, actually. But he'd been doing Google Ads for a while. So he fine-tuned and tweaked my skill set. Do this, not that, do this, not that. They had sold like 80 clients. So there was just order confirmations printed out through email that they hadn't delivered on because they didn't have anybody to do that. And I just got to work. So I worked there for about 1.5 years and really just all I did was Google Ads from 8 to 5. And at night I did my affiliate thing. And then one day I came into work and I was like, I made more money in affiliate marketing than I'll do the rest of the week here by the time I woke up. So I was like, okay, I need to figure something else out. And then one evening, I was buying domains, and I got a call at like 1 a.m. at night on a Friday. I was like, who is calling me? I answered the phone, and it's the owner of the domain purchasing site. But he was calling me from Florida, and he was going, I need to see who it is that's sitting in Denmark and buying domains every Friday night. So we were talking, we went back and forth. I shared with him some numbers I was making. And the first thing he said, like, just move to Malta. Then you don't have to pay taxes. It's easy, it's warm. You should do that immediately. A month and a half later, I was out of Denmark. I quit my job. I left, went all in, moved to Malta, and was just all in on the affiliate marketing. But I thought it was the most boring thing to sit by myself, just doing my own affiliate marketing, writing articles and all that stuff to rank and do Google Ads. I thought it was so boring. So yeah, that was how I got into it. But no official education. I felt like at that time that, and it's just a lot of it. I have the same opinion today that within Google Ads and a lot of online marketing, by the time you're done with your schooling, it's 4 years ahead. So you've lost if you learn something for a year now, you go in for schooling for 4 years, you'll be so far behind when you come out, and you don't have anything to use when you come out. If somebody wants to be hired by me, I don't look at their schooling. I don't look at their education. I see how do they do in their case. I think there's a lot of similarities to how AI is going to work in the future and different things. But so I skipped the entire schooling part. I just went straight into business.
I did something quite similar. I didn't go to school either. I didn't go to Malta though. I moved to Barcelona.
Sounds a good place.
You don't really look at schooling when you're hiring. And I mean, the same thing's going to happen now with AI. I'm like super curious what's going to happen to all these huge like firms that are putting all these grades as like they're no longer important. What will a degree be worth?
I listened to a podcast a while ago where in the US, and this is very US specific, it's less so in Denmark, but because of the teachings and the monoculture that there are in a lot of the Ivy League colleges in the US, the people that come out of there are actually, they're less creative than people coming out of B or C tiered colleges in the US. So some places are now actively avoiding Ivy League or Tier A college students. Like again, I live in San Diego, so it's just crazy to think about like you can spend 100,000, 200,000, 500,000 on an education, and then it actually comes against you. I don't think it's that black and white, really. Like there's still massive opportunity if you get the right education and different things like that. I think it's just something for everyone to really be careful about. Like, what is the value of schooling? What's the value of education? If you're a dentist, massive value. If you're a general marketer, do you really get anything out of understanding international marketing in certain degrees? Yeah, of course. You can use some of that skill set, but a lot of it is just, it's not applicable in a day-to-day. Then you get, again, if you go out of school, or if you start in our industry at 19, then you might not be mature enough to actually get a real job, get a real career trajectory. So waiting 4 years, you get more mature, you get more experiences, you understand more what you would actually like to do. So I think it's just not black and white in terms of looking at whether education is good. I think it's much more important to like, is it good for me? Is it the right thing for me? I knew exactly what I wanted when I came out. So I think that was, for me, that was important.
I thought I knew what I wanted. Then it turned out that I had no idea what I wanted. But at least I knew what I didn't want anymore.
I still don't know what I want.
The last episode I did with Christian, who's an agency owner of Digime, and we go back and forth a lot. And he also tells me, like, even at this stage in my life, I have a successful business, I have a team, but maybe this isn't what I do until the day I die. I'm probably going to do a bunch of other things because this is definitely not that one thing I want to do forever.
I think it's important to understand when your time is up and when it's time to try something new. I've tried many different things over the years. It's been rare. Like, I've only had like 2-year stints where I've only focused on one thing, which is, those instances were nice, but I also know when I start getting jittery, just being bored, and then we have to try something new. As I've gotten older, I've realized, when do I involve the team in that, and when it's just me that needs to try something new. AI is itching away at me at the moment to figure out, how do we implement it in Savvy? How do we implement it into e-commerce? What impact will it have on media buying? What impact will it have on a day-to-day? Like, how much can in-house teams now take over in a year, 2 years, 3 years, take over versus what we do? So it's itching in me just to play with that all day long. So I have this thing, when something doesn't feel like work, then there's something there. And playing with AI today, it doesn't feel like work.
It's dangerous. My wife hates it because I'll stay up until 8 p.m. and then go to sleep, just sitting in front of the screen, just like losing myself into work that doesn't feel like work.
As I saw somebody write that, he tweeted that he actually, on the whole blogging thing, that he's blogging every week, and he's using the software that costs like $15 a month. I don't remember exactly which one it was, but something like Beehive or something like that. And he was like, I just coded Beehive in 3 hours. And I have my own blogging platform. I can send out emails, and it's all custom, and it works for me. And I just went like, there's two opinions right now on that. One is that everybody will do that in the future. SaaS is dead. Nobody will buy a software. And I go like, I think it's going to be exactly the opposite. I never, ever, I'm very technical. I love doing these things, but I would never sit down and code my own blogging platform, etc. Like, the one caveat I have with all this is like hyper optimized or hyper niche software. Like, for instance, Notion for Savvy. So we built, after going through 6 different CRM systems and task management and project management systems, we built all of Savvy in Notion like 3 years ago. So now we have tasks, projects, internal KPIs, OKRs, notes, sales management, internal Wikipedia or knowledge base. All those things are inside of our Notion, and we couldn't have done that. That killed, like, if we wanted to do Salesforce instead or any of the similar, yes, we didn't go into that. Would I recommend anybody else than an 11-person team to do that? No. It's just, Notion isn't built for that. And it's going to be the same thing. If you can build a focused software that does exactly what I needed to do, then I will buy that. Or I might build that for myself, but I don't think it'll be. I don't think that it'll be the norm. That most people will build their own software just custom for them, because I think it's going to be with the 1% that does that. So I don't think SaaS is dead. I don't think any of that. And that opens up the whole conversation. What happens with agencies? What happens with freelancers? What happens there? And I personally do not know.
Even from my perspective now, we were talking to someone where, like, we recently started doing paid video ads on Meta, and we created a really interesting hook. We're like A/B testing different video concepts, and we launched it. We put a small budget on it, and we started, like, over 2 weeks, we got like 40 leads in for like nothing. The cheapest lead we got in on one of the arms was like, I think it was 20 Danish krona, which is something like less than $3. And I was just like, this is insane. And I called up the lead. It was a real human. I was like, how is this possible? That's so crazy. And then I realized 39 leads. If I want to like scale my business, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that first call and qualify 39 people. And then like some of them are coming from one region, some of them are from another region, time zone differences, like all of these issues. And I was like, honestly, I would rather pay a team to just take over that first initial part of calling them up. So I agree with you. Like, yes, you can do everything yourself, but if you do everything yourself, there's no business for you to do because you don't have time to do your business.
This is why I keep going back and forth on this, because I do believe that there is a case for creating hyper-focused software. We in Savvy, for instance, to forecast our revenue for next month, we have half of our clients are a fixed fee, half of them are a percentage of ad spend, and a certain percentage are a flat fee plus a percentage of ad spend. It depends a little bit on, we have those two models. So we have an Excel sheet that pulls in all the ad spend, pulls in the percentages, and then like a Google sheet that pulls in those numbers and then forecast based on how many days left in the month and stuff like that. That is something that we could today, if we didn't have the Excel skills or Google spreadsheet skills that we have, that's something we technically could go in and say, okay, now we code that with Cursor or Replit or one of those other platforms. I definitely see where some of these like micro apps or what you want to call it can be extremely useful in the future and can be a huge business as well. Like I was talking to somebody, like just some of these, like I'm gonna build it for myself here, I think on Saturday, but I watch soccer a bunch in Europe and I'm 9 hours behind and I have a selection. All of it is recorded. I pay $8 a month to Peacock. Every single Premier League game or 80% of Premier League games are recorded. And I always go, okay, I can watch one, maybe two games over every weekend. One is Manchester United. The other one, I want to have something that's interesting. I do not want to watch a 0-0 game for 90 minutes. I wasted my time then. And I want to create an app where I just write in and say, what game should I watch today? And said, okay, I prefer watching Manchester United. Then I prefer watching one of the big six teams. Outside of that, I like to watch a game that has like 2 or more goals in it. And I would love to open the app and it just says, you should watch Brighton versus Fulham today. Plenty of excitement, but it doesn't give me the score. I could never build that in the past. I think that's definitely going to happen. And then the rest, I don't know. I do not know. I feel like everybody's too excited at the moment, and I think they're not excited enough. Like they're too excited because they say we're going to replace everything else, every single SaaS. That's not going to happen. And then I don't think we're excited enough about what AI can actually replace or add to our day and our week.
I love what you mentioned about like you guys are doing a lot of things in Excel, and like that's one of the things that maybe you could build a micro tool around, like specifically for you, for your niche and how your company reports on your forecasted revenue. And the more I'm in this discussion hearing it kind of sounds like AI to some degree is what Excel was back when it was invented, which was like, holy crap, we can go from writing it on a piece of paper and doing the math to like just doing it on a screen. And I feel like that's kind of what's happening now. And instead of it being Excel, it's just like all of these little AI tools.
Yeah, and I think if you actually look at the coding aspects of all this and the programming aspects, that's partially what's getting opened up here. Where one of the core things that we do in Savvy is we do this thing called feed-based search. So we build search ads based on a feed. That's something that people have tried to do for the longest time. And the way we figured out how to do it is the most important thing is to customize the feed. 70% of the time we can get that out of the software from the client, or we'll scrape the website to get the values that we want, and then we kind of tweak it from there. I can already foresee that we can build an AI-based web scraper. Let's say we're selling gold pens. Then the category in the feed is gold pens. Now we tell the AI, go to the website and find a category for gold pens. And then there's a logic that falls behind it that can do that. If I had to code that through a web scraper, I need to very accurately using breadcrumbs or something else go in and say, this belongs here, find this here. And then there's the whole thing, this gold pen, that it will exist in pens, gold pens with a special, like whatever this is, and gold pens with a specific size of ballpoint. And that's all things that we've tried. We've tried in Savvy. We can't code that. We can't rule base our way out of it. But if we put in an AI layer and store it in a BigQuery and we use Python with AI prompts to actually transform some of this data, we can cut away 80% of the work that we do with feed-based search and potentially allow other people to do the same. So I think some of these things just open up. We couldn't hire 1, 2, 3 developers in Savvy to do this before. And there was also the AI element that we didn't have access to. So some of those things will just make things so much more effective. And I think the use cases are just insane. And I read it the other day where somebody said one of the biggest industries is going to come up right now and in 2 seconds are going to be AI workflow consultants. And I couldn't agree more. There's so many people asking, how do I implement AI in my business? How do I actually, if we go e-commerce, which is our niche, how do I implement it for customer service? How do I change the backgrounds on images? How do I write all this? Like some of them are smart, and like the low-hanging fruit has been done in terms of customer service, in terms of rewriting descriptions, translating product descriptions, and all these things. But then there's the workflows inside the business. Like how do you take this, like adding a new product and all the steps we used to have? How do we just turn that into, well, we have a new product and now AI does all this stuff and it's 90% of the way or 100% of the way. We just upload and we're done. It's just like, it's such a difference from what it used to be that AI workflow consultants, I read the word and I was like, wow, that's going to be a big business.
I think we even talked about this over dinner last time where we were like Jane in the back office, right?
Yeah.
That one lady who knows everything about the business, been there for 20 years. Like, just imagine that lady in the business, how much she could benefit from just having so many of her tasks automated. Then she could like really focus on helping out in so many other places where she's so needed with her knowledge.
Then she can be like, what the example we were talking about as well was that I got a call from a client they're in the middle of Jutland, which for people who are not familiar with Denmark is like, that's where all the nice people are. The rest of Danes are obnoxious, arrogant. But right where she's based, they're just so nice. It's like Middle America in the US. And she called me up to tell me that our invoice was wrong for the previous month. We had put the wrong date on it, and I was like, "Oh no!" And I started apologizing and told her like, "I want to send. I'm going to fix it right now. I'll send out a new invoice, and we'll take care of it." And she's like, "No, Andrew, don't need to do that. I've already taken care of it in our bookkeeping system. I've logged it for the right date and all those things. No worries. I just wanted to call to let you know that it had happened. So if you are still sending out invoices, then you could fix it before it was too late." It was like a Monday morning or something like that. I was like, God, that's so nice. That's the human element that Jane in the back room can focus on if she doesn't have to type in all this weird information or correlate this with that. There's going to be a lot of opportunities. And I think people just really need to get their eyes open and focus on those aspects and not focus on the aspects that don't try to replicate a $15 piece of software. Try to fix a key workflow in your business. That's where the value is. That's like going from like reduce your stock photo usage because you can just take pictures of your offices with your phone camera and then tell ChatGPT, make this nicer in this kind of environment, et cetera, put people in, et cetera. I haven't gotten the people part to work on me. They continue to change my entire face. No matter what I do in the prompts and what Lucas, our marketing manager, and Sammy does with the prompts, changes my face every single time. If we have an indication that ChatGPT doesn't like my face, that's a whole thing.
AI workflow agents or like workflow optimizers, which is essentially what they are. AI is just thrown in there, but what they do is solve the same problem that any business always has had. It's the friction between different departments and tasks. But now you can just do it better with AI. What I see is that's going to be very hard to sell as a SaaS solution because it just keeps improving. One model has the best thing right now. Next time another model has the best thing right. The death of SaaS models kind of feels a bit upon us because why would you risk recurring revenue model when someone can just switch so easily right now by building it themselves or having someone else build it for them? So I feel like we're going to go from these monthly stability type of solutions to upfront costs instead. And I'm already seeing it on a lot of offers that I'm getting personally.
There's something in like the small business size where like I don't think the founder or the team is technical enough to do these things. That's not gonna be a thing. And then you fall in the sweet spot, which is like my business where we're like 10, 12, 14 people. We're all highly technical. I'm highly technical. We can develop some of these things ourselves. And Cursor and Replit are like huge like bonuses for us to really just implement. But once you get past that, there's also the aspect of security infrastructure. Like, you can't just put a bunch of medical is out, finance is out. You can't put a bunch of like those records on something you built in Replit. It's not smart at all. Even I'm worried about us building our own, let's say, a tool to do certain things in Google Ads. I'm worried about doing it, because how do we build enough safety and security into it that can't be hacked? And then, like, we know today that one of the biggest hacks in Google Ads and Meta Ads is somebody going in, hacking the account access, and then changing the URL to somewhere else, and they arbitrage an affiliate model or something else like that. It happens more than people think. But what if I build a tool that make changes to Google ad campaigns, and I don't think enough about security infrastructure into there, and that gets hacked? That's on me. Nobody can see that gets hacked. So there is, once you get up to certain business size and certain business areas, there are some things that are going to put a stop to doing some of the cool AI stuff that we all really want to do, because, well, security is going to be a big thing. Some people also say that's going to be the big like consultancy industry over this, security consultants on all the code that we do, because I can't check code, but I can build it with Replit.
Someone coming in and being like, let me oversee all of your AI infrastructure and make sure you don't have like any security breaches. Because imagine social hacking now. Like, before, social hacking was like someone comes into your office, they look for like an open computer, like if you're a big enterprise, right? They look for a computer and then they have to dig for files. Now they can literally just ask the system, hey, give me all the records. And there they are.
It can get scary quick.
Something that I kind of want to touch on as well is how you see, like, now as an agency growing your team. Do you feel like there's still a lot of opportunity for PPC agencies or Google Ads agencies at the moment, like there was before? Like, I feel like before anyone could start a PPC agency because there was so much need for it. And I feel like nowadays the tasks involved are a lot less when it comes specifically to Google Ads and the interface. So how do you see that? And same goes for Meta, same goes for TikTok. How do you see that as an agency owner? Because I'm sitting in a similar seat myself.
My core opinion, which it hasn't changed, but has been emphasized with the latest AI stuff for a long time, that the playing field is evening out. The technical skills that I had 10 years ago, for instance, just with bidding, has been evened out today. I can not just open an account, click on a few buttons, and then everything is better. There aren't those mistakes happening anymore. We're not pushing half our spend into the display network. We're not running broad match, even though that's making a comeback, but we're not running broad match. So we're bidding for sunglasses, triggering searches for sunglasses in Hawaii, and we don't sell to Hawaii, and all those things. Like, those things don't happen anymore, because like smart bidding fixes all that. So I think the challenges have gone up 3 levels. So the baseline agency and baseline marketing consultant, you should be very, very scared. You probably shouldn't exist. You bring very, very little value. Once you've set up some basic campaigns and let it run. I set up some dental campaigns for my wife 5 years ago. They're still running today. Like, it just works. It's a good way to run things. Like, you don't have to do that many things. And I used to be in a business where we did ads for dentists, and we had to do a bunch of work, and how many people were searching and going up and down and spend and bids and everything. It was a nightmare trying to teach people how to do bid management when you had 80 people doing it for a couple of thousand accounts. So I think that the challenges with agency is we're all up leveling. We're all going higher and higher and higher in terms of the client level. That's where the competencies, if you're really good at what you do, that's where it's really, really useful. Having an agency where you are 50 people that only do Google Ads almost doesn't exist today, because the skills you have at 50 people in Google Ads it's not the best people. You'll have 10 people who are really, really bad. You have 10 people that are really, really good. You have 30 people that are okay, and everything in between. And those just don't bring a lot of difference into an account at that level. Where, if you just take an example from an account that we took over from an in-house team a month ago, they had taken a bunch of best practices, some of which came from us, and implemented them wrong. They had, for instance, in 2022, they had implemented feed-based search because they had done it in another business that they worked in, and it was done wrong. And just a slight example was like they had overwritten replaced every single ad with a new generic ad in all the categories for the entire website, and they hadn't noticed that year over year performance went down by 50%. And yes, this was also at a time where there was COVID and different things. So there was a reason why things would go down if you look at the numbers. But I'm good enough, and my team is good enough to go in and see, hey, yeah, but it never increased again. It never increased with the rest of the industry. So yeah, where search went down 50% year over year, shopping actually only went down 11%. So it's not a demand issue here. Something went wrong in search. and they just never recovered from it. And then we've been called in and was just like, this is too complicated. Things have been implemented wrong. I can't teach anybody that. That's only experience and skills that go in, and that custom level can go in and look at it. That's where we in Savvy, we're not planning on being more than 10 people, because I don't think I can teach this at scale, and we can't find enough good people that can do this at scale. So I think there is a lot of value in a marketing agency, in my opinion, if you can dig deeper into the individual business, especially those businesses that either today want to rely on in-house resources or previously have relied on in-house resources. They're just missing seeing the full picture because they don't see more accounts. So whether or not that is engaging, like changing out your in-house team, that's one thing, but you can also just engage with an agency and help. So I think a lot of the work that we will do in the future will be assisting in-house teams, helping them just with more knowledge, more perspective on how to do certain things. And in some cases, we will be a better option than an in-house team. And sometimes in-house teams will be able to take over the mantle from us in certain cases. The general marketing agency out there that puts 20 accounts on an account strategist or PPC manager will have a tough time very, very soon, because they don't bring a ton of value to the relationship. They don't help out on strategy. They don't say, okay, this is what's happening in Google Ads, this is how it relates to your business, etc. And the same thing applies with Meta. I've had my hands deep in Meta for the last 2 years because I was starting a couple of D2C brands. There it's very clear that overall media buying has some traits. Definitely 100%. There's things you need to know and you can go wrong. Once you learn those, it's really a creative game, which is very, very important. Get the right creatives going. And then once you get to a certain size, then media buying becomes a huge thing again. You can't just run one campaign with the creatives. You have to be more strategic. You have to be more, okay, this creative is for this audience. This creative is for this audience. Should we have those in the same campaign? Yes, no. And there are still some skills and things you know about how to do things in an account that really makes a difference. And so I think the future of an agency and marketing as a whole, we will continue the long march towards evening out the playing field, but there are still a lot of value from people who are really good at what they do.
And I love that you mentioned the creative aspect, because I was talking to a prospect that's in the UK, and they do liquor, and they recently got funded. They want to launch in UK, and they called us up because they had seen one of our ads, and it was a Google Ads reporting tool, basically. And I talked to him. I'm like, you haven't launched, and you're going to launch with 4 SKUs in total, 4 items. No one knows your brand. No one's going to be searching for you. There's no point in having a report for Google Ads when there's going to be 0 searches for you. I was like, your money is going to be way better spent if you just try to build some notoriety about your brand, build some video ads, try to get into, bars, distribution, the restaurant business, sell through them, and then influence that and like build nice videos. And then I was like, I hadn't even thought of it. And then I went in on TikTok and Facebook Ads Library, and I just started looking. UK liquor brands, and all their ads are horrible. Like every single one, absolutely horrible. I didn't like a single ad, and I probably went through 50 of them. Like there's such an open space of absolute trash content that is being pushed with actual paid media. I was like, how are people putting money behind this? I wouldn't receive money to watch it. There's no way I'm going to actually enjoy it and even remember the brand or like them.
Sometimes when we're in marketing and we're at the top of our fields, we need to remember we are living in an absolute bubble. Always, for the longest time, I've joked that I'm the worst person to teach anybody Google Ads. So when anybody comes into Savvy, I do not train them. I have not trained a single person in Savvy in Google Ads. Have I helped a lot of people? Have I contributed to processes, frameworks, ideas, and stuff like that? Yes. But I can't relate to somebody who has done a year's worth of Google Ads. I have no idea what gaps he has or she has from her existing knowledge to go to where we need them to be. I can't do it. And I've always been really, really bad at it. And I saw somebody post the other day. It was actually Jill. She wrote a book on audience targeting Google Ads. Met her a bunch of times. But she said that, and it's an interesting aspect. I'll get to what it matters for this in a second. But she said that she's not actively managing accounts today and haven't done for 2 years. She's a Google Ads coach. She does a lot of videos, podcasts, etc. on Google Ads. And she says she's still as good at Google Ads as she's always been. And she said it was because her coaching clients get a lot out of it. And I wanted to write, I disagree. I think you're 100% worse at Google Ads today than you were 2 years ago. I just think that you're much better at teaching Google Ads to people because you see their accounts. You can make the connection. You know it. Google Ads haven't changed. It's people searching for a product, you show an ad, you send it to a landing page. That hasn't changed for 20 years. So the baseline, once you know that and know like where to go wrong in the engine and the platforms and stuff like that, doesn't change. I wanted to say, but it could have been misconstrued. You're worse at Google Ads today than you were 2 years ago, but you're better at training them. Because I see the same thing when we do audits in Savvy, and I get to see all the stupid mistakes that people make. Then I go, this is why we exist, because us in the marketing bubble, we live maybe in the top 3%, top 5% of accounts. We don't see all the bad stuff that's happening. We don't see the startup that spends money on creating reports or buying a Tableau license for $10,000 a year when they haven't spent any money on ads. We don't see the account that I audited last week where, like, okay, on surface, they were doing well, $150 CPA product with amazing margins or $200. So they make $50 and they have thousands upon thousands of those conversions a year. Awesome. That looks great. When I looked into the numbers behind the scenes, 60% were branded terms. And there's no competition on branded terms. We sometimes, when we sit and write stupid things on LinkedIn about what you should do, we live in a bubble. We are extremely good at what we do. We see the top echelon of accounts. So that also go back to like some of the things that I know. When you think about what Google does and the changes that they implement in accounts, they are not for the 3% of top accounts out there. They're for the 97%, and they couldn't care less about that. I don't like that what this button is or this. There's still a lot of people that do things wrong today. That will continue to happen no matter how good AI does. Like it gets like maybe in 5 years, maybe in 10 years, my advice and my inputs will have been completely swallowed up by an AI that can do the same thing. Then we'll find another existence, 100%. But I think we're so far away from that today. Several people have tried in the past. Several companies have tried to build out these things. There's always and have always been a really big need for people who know your business, who know the marketing platform, and can implement together. The gap there has been much smaller now because you don't have to know bidding. You don't have to know many of these things. You don't have to set up 110 campaigns in meta ads that's targeted towards every single age group and every single county of the world to be more specific with bidding. All these things have been going away, and that will continue to go away. So I think up-leveling yourself, make sure you stay at the top echelon. Don't work with small clients. It's not a good idea. The margin isn't there, and the need for you will go away rapidly.
Business acumen, or just knowledge of how to conduct good business, that is a skill which, I mean, obviously it's only necessary for humans as long as humans are the owners of business. And as long as humans are the owners of business, the need for being good at doing it will always exist. And I think maybe that's what sets you apart and sets apart some of the other really good voices when it comes to marketing, is that you've actually put your money where your mouth is and said, hey, I'm going to try to build a brand and see how it goes.
There's a lot of things that goes into building a brand. That's not just building a brand. I found that so we started two. We had to close one of them just because I have this opinion that especially as you get older, you only have so much time left. And I started a subscription business, and I started a partially high AOV business which would heavily be a one-time purchase, but with a heavy gifting component to it. So once you buy it, it was like a pizza stone made out of cast iron. Nobody had really done a big DTC play on it in the US. So I was like, oh, I think we can do it. Sold 10,000 the first year, did over $1 million in sales in revenue. Business wasn't profitable. When I looked at it after the year and a half, I was like, we're not getting the gifting numbers that we need once we went through the second round of Q4. That's advantage of being an agency. I can see what every single client in Savvy has in their repeat purchase rate. I would like to mention we don't have a single client that sells the same item or anything like that. I could just see what is the existing customer rate, for instance, in jewelry. What is it in swimwear? What is it at? I was like, okay, they're all around 30 to 50% in Q4. And as my brand went into the second Q4, we had a repurchase rate of 7%. And I was like, entire business built on three facets. One, we could sell it direct. We could 100%. Then the second was that we could, like, that once one person bought it, they brought people over to make pizzas in their house, and people would go, wow, that's amazing. I want that. And the third one was that people would gift it. Because it's a $100 product, it looks really really good, or it looked really really good. It was designed to be just pretty and to have in your kitchen and to make pizzas on, compared to the normal pizza steel that was out there. But we didn't get the regifting or the gifting purchases that we had anticipated. Then the one big thing as a business owner, the numbers didn't add up. We tried really, really hard. So it was like, it costs $25 to produce. Then there was X amount in shipping. It costs ton to ship from China, because each one of these were like 15 pounds. We could only put 1,000 units in a container, which the container could usually have 5,000 units in it. We couldn't get the numbers on the cogs down on each unit fast enough. We had a pretty good way to do it, but we couldn't get it as far down as we wanted it to go. And then the big one was shipping. It cost us $22 to ship, despite us optimizing the warehouses in the US. We had 2 different warehouses. So once you ship to one, we had to transfer it to another one. That also cost money. And then we had to, from there, $22. So the math wasn't mathing towards the end. And I remember looking at it going, I can 100% make this work. We had pretty good success on YouTube with pretty good brand awareness, with pretty good DTC ads. People loved the product. We had a less than 1% return rate, despite giving 100-day money back guarantee, no questions asked. So if somebody wrote in within 100 days and said that they wanted, the product didn't do what they wanted it to do, or that it was broken, it was their fault. People do stupid things with cast iron. They'll wash it after every use. They put a pizza on it. It's just, no, don't do that. Just wipe it with a cloth, with a dry cloth, take the flour off, and that's perfect. But product was great. Customers were satisfied, good reviews. And I think we could make a really, really good business out of it with much more brand awareness and stuff like that. The math just wasn't mathing. So I could spend my time building that and then get copied by a Chinese competitor within 3 seconds, that people saw that was good. And then they would just ride away on my brand awareness, versus going all in on the subscription business, versus going all in on another business where the math was much better, where it's 80% margins, where it's, as it's come out now, as of we're recording this in April 2025, tomorrow we don't know what kind of tariffs exactly are coming out in the US. So producing the subscription supplement that we have as another brand is made in the US. We have 80% margins on it, easier to ship, it's subscription based. It's something I believed a lot in the pizza stuff. This I believe a lot more in as well. So I just think doing not spending too much time on an industry or a business that's kind of coasting is something to really be very, very careful with, because you can spend a lot of time on something that doesn't turn out to be a good idea.
I actually had a call with a prospect in Denmark who was selling construction liquids, like cement, stuff like this. Been a big business, been around for 15 years, did 3 rebrandings. And then I was on a call with him and he was like, we've been going down. We do need help. The people that are helping us, it's not good enough, and nothing's working at the moment. I was like, all right, cool. Let's see what we can do. And then usually what I'll do, it's not a financial audit, but almost I'm just like, hey, let's just be honest with each other. Let me see if there's incremental value for us to give you. If we can help you grow your business by 20 to 100%, depending on what's out there, I'd love to be incentivized by that. So let's just sit down. What's your cost of goods sold? What's your revenue? What's your return rate, average order value, all that stuff. And then when it came down to it, he was like, I think he had something like a 10 to 15% margin, somewhere around there. And I was like, even if I double your business, the payment to me, if I took 50% of incremental profits, would be less than $1,500. Even if I did an amazing job and doubled you, this doesn't make sense. Not for me. And I honestly don't think this business is really that good for you either.
I think it's one thing why marketing agencies get in trouble. Is that they look at it, and there was a guy from you hair care or something like that. I posted the other day that 90% of agencies sucks, because he had been with 4, 5, 6 different agencies and they had all failed. In his opinion, 95% of agencies are bad. The thing that agencies do poorly, and why certain businesses have a horrible luck with agencies, is that the agencies, half of them will go in and it's just a sales guy who goes in and sells them and says, we can do this, and they don't care whether or not they actually can do it or not. They obviously suck and they should be abolished to hell. Then there's the people like me, who will look, and you for that matter, who will look on a case like that and we will go, I can fix that. But we never ask the question, what happens if I fix it? And what does fixing look like? And should I fix it? It's one of the reasons why on my agency website, we have pricing on there, because I don't want to get an opportunity for a small D2C brand to come to me and say, hi, I'm spending 10,000 kroner a month. Help me. Because I will look at it and I'll go, and my partner will do the same. Anybody in our agency will do the same. We can fix this, this, and this in your account, and we can do this and this better. And I think we can 3x your revenue from Google Ads. But if they're spending 10,000 kroner, or for them to spend 20,000 kroner, for us to pull that up to 30, and that's kind of where we think it'll sit, that's a bad idea. We shouldn't do that. It's still not worth it. An agency really needs to know their customer. They really need to know, when should they walk away? When is this mathematically not a good idea to do? We did that. I did that from the other business, just walked away. It was like, the math doesn't math. And it's the same approach I've had in the agency ever since we started. Sometimes it's fair if somebody thinks that, we had a recent client actually who thought that, and maybe it was a mistake we took them on from the get-go. We gave them a slightly lower fee than we normally want from a similar case. And they all the time said, this is really expensive, Andrew. And I'm like, it's half of what we normally charge. The reason why we're going along with half is because we have a new person on the team that needs something to work with. My most important thing when we get new people in is they need things to work with. We'll say yes to you. We'll work together for 6 to 12 months, and then we will do a great job, and then we will potentially part ways because the fee doesn't equate to what we want. But then they've gotten something out of it. They kind of took the risk on a new person in Savvy. New people in Savvy are really, really good, and they're backed by frameworks and me and my partner and everything. So usually it always works out. But he came like earlier in March and was like, hey, we need to cancel. The math, our margins are just too bad. I was like, I knew it. I knew we just shouldn't have. And it's just, that was me just not being smart enough about the clients that we take on. And I think that's where most agencies screw over clients, is that they take on clients that they in their heart and mind know that they probably shouldn't. It's a bad thing for the agency as well. It costs so much money to onboard a new client. It takes so much time. And if they're just out the door 3 to 6 months later, you've spent a lot of time, you've wasted a lot of time on that client just to get another one that you need to spend time on. But then you're in a negative cycle, and then you have to do it because you have revenue you need to cover, and then it becomes a whole thing. So if you can ever avoid that, that's a good idea. You just make the math and you say the math doesn't math.
Yeah.
It's the best thing for me ever. It's to say the math isn't mathing here. We need this. You want this. We can get here. It's okay for the math not to math. Go talk to these guys instead. Maybe the math will be math for them. Maybe they have a new person on the team, a surplus of resources internally. So they actually going, we'll do this for half the price, which might be okay for that case. But because as marketers, we look at every single account and we go, I can fix this.
It's so true. You're instantly like, oh, this is exactly how I would scale it. Here's the 1-year plan.
And then you see the 1-year plan is going from almost nothing to a little bit more than nothing, and it's still nothing.
Andrew, it's been awesome talking to you. I feel like we could talk for hours, and it would be a great discussion all the way through. I want to hear with you. Do you think there's anyone we should invite to the podcast next?
Like the number one person that jumps up to my head is just, I haven't talked to him yet, but he's always like, he's always good for a good laugh. And like, if you have him on, I'd love to come on as well. I think Ed Leek would be great.
Yeah, I've seen him on LinkedIn a million times.
He's great. He's funny. He has some good ideas. He's one of the OGs, like, that he knows his stuff, has run a successful agency, has transitioned over to the course business now, and is doing the right things, and has really good opinions, and he's funny. I think listening to his story, I think would be great. So I think he gets my biggest recommendation.
Love it. I'll try to reach out to him. And then finally, do you have any shout outs? Anything you want to shout out? Obviously, shout out to Cyber Revenue.
I just think that people need to, like, I think I don't have a direct shout out. Like, so I just think, like, one last tip here with AI is, like, we're all in our little bubbles with what we do. And like, one of the things that I like to do, and I just think everybody should do it, is prune their LinkedIn, prune their Twitter, like wherever they consume content, try to just prune it or open a new account or whatever you have to do, and then follow people in whatever space you want to learn about. Right now, most of us are really interested in AI.
Yeah.
So what I've done is, like, my EA went in and removed everybody, including Ed Leak, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and just like removed everybody. Like, and then I just said, like, I have 3 people I want to follow within AI. And I started following them. They started posting things, and then they retweet from others, and people comment on, you're saying smart things. Now I follow you. All of a sudden, you start following a bunch of people within that space. And all of a sudden, when you go on LinkedIn, when you go on Twitter, you start learning about this particular space a lot more and you see examples. So you get out of this bubble. Couldn't care less what Ed does on, and I know that we're friends, so I can say this. I couldn't care less what Ed does in PPC and AI, or what his opinion is on broad match. I couldn't care less. I care a lot about what the AI workflow consultant does over in the garbage industry and what he has implemented to make their business more interesting. I can directly take that and learn about AI and use that in our business. But getting out of that bubble in your own industry, sometimes you can really learn something. So I think instead of shouting out anybody's particular, that methodology for learning things have worked really, really well for me.
I love that. Maybe I should start unfollowing people on LinkedIn.
Unfollow me. I lost every single person that listens to this on LinkedIn.
No, but great tips, and always really nice talking to you.
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of The Humble Venture, the podcast where you get thoughts directly from industry leaders, business professionals, entrepreneurs, and high-performing talent. So if you liked the episode, please give it a like. Follow us and give us a little comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts on if you like the episode, if you have any feedback, if we should bring on any other guests, or if we should ask them something differently. If you need help with paid media, marketing, or anything else related to digital, please let us know. That's what we do. We're the best at it. You can check us out at humbleventuregroup.com. Our talent comes directly from Google, Meta, TikTok, and many other really great places. So give it a check, humbleventuregroup.com. Thank you so much again, and stay humble.